Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Prachi.
Good morning, Dr. Priya. Good morning, everyone.
Good of you all to join on a Sunday morning. I know it's an odd time pre-Diwali. So our other speakers are joining in. I just thought that we should begin on time so that everybody can get free before, on time. And so this is our second sort of discussion that we wanted to have. So amongst us, last time we had discussed ranunculaceae, ranuncularis. So when we were talking as to what would be the next topic that we would discuss about, Prachi and I had a couple of cases. And so we thought that it would be nice to juxtapose last time's discussion with the two cases of Porifera that we had, so that, the compare and contrast is there. Sheetal has just joined in. But Prachi will go first. So I just thought that we could go on time.
Sure.
So today's program is like this. Hi, Sheetal. Good morning. So I just thought we would begin. Manjeet, sorry. Maganjot will also come and Manisha would come. So Prachi will go first. She'll talk about her case. And then I will talk about my case briefly. Then the others, as they come forward, would be presenting different aspects of our understanding that we want to put together. So, Prachi, go ahead and share your case and you can begin.
Okay. Then shall I share screen?
Yes, please. You can.
Thank you.
Yeah, are we recording this?
Yes, recording is in progress.
Thanks. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Is my screen visible? I mean the slide?
Yes, visible.
Okay. So, as Dr. Priya gave a brief of how we are with this case, both of us had a case which brought to some common understanding, and we thought of going ahead with these two cases. So, begin with case one. He was a 42-year-old male, and he used to come to me for quite some time for recurrent coughs and colds. But this was 2 years back. This case came to me with a swelling in the neck. So he told me that the family has noticed a swelling, especially while having dinner. People around noted a lump in the throat, and he didn't have any complaints as such. So 3 weeks approximately, he said that people are saying that while you swallow, we can see something moving. So obviously went to the doctor and sonography was done, and it was found out to have a nodules in the thyroid gland, and the thyroid hormone level came out to be normal. But the nodules were also multiple nodules. Multinodular goiter was found out, and on the right side, the right lobe of the thyroid has the largest nodule, and it was like growing. He could see that day by day it was increasing, and the size could be seen visibly to the outsiders. So when I asked him, what is the effect on you when you got to know from your family that this is happening? Then he says that I felt some compressed sensation over my throat, as if some stretch. And also he said that, as you know that I have recurrent cough and cold, I always feel that mucus is stuck in my nose and I need to go and blow it out. Otherwise, it keeps holding inside my nose. So I asked, he gave me the effect of the problem on him, that he feels compressed. So I asked that sensation, describe the compression. So immediately he went to give an example of a cycle tire where there are two tubes, he said, the inner tube and the outer tube. The inner tube is kept in place because the outer tube inflates and keeps it tightened and keeps it at one place. So his explanation was regarding keeping at one place. So even if the expansion happens to the inner tube, it will not burst because the outer tube keeps it at one place. I asked him, how does the compression feel? How is the experience? And therefore, obviously, when I got that keeping at one place, compressed at one place, I asked its opposite. What could be the opposite? Then he said that it is released. When it is released, it will be in equilibrium. see, here we are not finding the logical meaning of compression, but the patient's experience. The patient is saying that it feels stable when it is not compressed. And that equilibrium is needed, because when that equilibrium is there, there is no shrinking and there is no growing also. And then what I said, what you will say to that thing which is opposite of expansion, opposite of that release? He said shrinking, saying that when something which is 10 kgs, suddenly it goes to 1 kg. And he said it could be because of something called drying. Drying can cause this shrinkage. So it is coming from his inner song, where he's experiencing the shrinking because of drying. He gave example like the kishmish, or the fruit of grape, where the evaporation or the heat causes the water to be lost and it gets shriveled. And then I asked, what's the experience if shriveled? Then he said, shrinking or becoming shriveled is a pain, because then it is not well nourished. It is not having nutrients from the tree, and it is now like a dead thing. Then I went to the opposite experience, the expansion. He said expansion is like enlargement, growing and getting bigger. And how does it feel? That getting bigger, everyone likes, he said. Who likes to get small? But that shrinking is lost, the pain is not there. And when it is lighter, when it is expanded, it has some space, it can float. Whereas in shrink, it can't float. So here we are completely into another experiential world, where he is giving it through an example. It's not relating to him, but it is touching his inner song. How about floating? Explain floating. He says it's free. It is without boundaries. It is without any control. The experience of floating is to be weightless, that there is no pressure, and it's not tied. It's not hooked. Floating in water, it is detached from that earth. Float and bounce and go up. You can take rest by touching and then float again. So for him, that touching is also important, where at the time of rest that touching happens, and that's the support for him. And then again he can bounce back and float. Support, I asked him to explain. We shouldn't presume what is support for him. He said it is stationary, something that is not moving, something that is paused, which is relaxed or a resting stage. For him, support means attachment, coming back to that base to take help. It's like an anchor to sit on something is the support, or it's the resting phase for his experience of support. After knowing this sensation and experience, I wanted to find what is this person who is having all these sensations. So I knew that he's coming to me for recurrent coughs and colds. So a bit of personality I was little aware of. So I have merged into one slide to bring out his nature from my previous experience, and during this quiz taking also for the thyroid nodule. He is always a shy person, timid. From childhood, he said that mother used to say that never she got any complaints for this child because he is quiet. Whenever mother cooks, as a child, she used to play behind her, sitting at one place. And most of the times, he would spend times in reading books. Variety of books he has read from childhood. A great knowledge seeker. He has many information, knowledge based on various aspects of life. Always lie down in the bed and keep reading throughout the day. Fat, chubby person, plumpy, but very soft spoken. Always he said that I avoid arguments, but I have my own views. I don't oppose others' views, but I don't put myself into arguments. That way, always, wife has also told, mother has also told, a soft person, quiet person. Always diligent in his work, in his school, played sports from childhood to the competitive level, but not for socializing, but it is for his own benefit, that he feels relaxed by sports. Never into friends or mingling and socializing, always within himself, by himself, spends times lazily is his favorite activity. On a Sunday afternoon, sleep for 2 hours and relax with the family. Going out, exploring the world was not his nature at all. He loves that lethargy. He loves that spending time and sitting on the sofa and watching TV lying down. Overall, performance was very nice. He said that from childhood, I was interested in various topics, and therefore I read many things. In his job perspective also, he is known to be very diligent person, but he always sees job as need for planning. When whatever finances he receive, that I have to secure the money, plan it for my children, plan for my retirement. So there was always a strategy used whenever he gets some income, along with the performance in the office. But classically, though he was a high performer, and like in a IT company, I could see that he was quite fumbling when he was talking to me. That performer, like Nux or a Lycopodium, who will show what he is, was not at all seen. He was very soft. He was very gentle. He was fumbling what to say the words. Overall, though he was telling that the career graph is very nice, and he is also known for his performance, but not a expressive person overall. He is very cautious and careful, and always there is some, wife was telling me that there is always a mistrust. Like even if we open or log on to a new app, he would say first check the cautious, to do not to do things, see if they are not cheating us. So always some sort of mistrust, and therefore to remain careful always in whatever thing he is going across, may it be related to driving a vehicle, may it be related to health or finances, careful and cautious. He doubts that, oh, what if my son gets hurt? So you should wear that shin guards before playing football. Always a careful attitude, and protecting himself and the family. Be safe is his funda of life, and therefore he always, when I went into sensation, all those things have not come today while explaining, but he said that we should be why we should be protected, because if we are not protected, we will show our vulnerabilities to others, and when we show our vulnerabilities, others can attack us very easily, and therefore we should be protective. And when I asked about his sensitivity, he said unfair practices or wrong practices, he's very sensitive. May it be extra money I have to pay anywhere, but I will always go by rules. Like for buying tickets or anything, never I will go by different methods where I get it cheaper. It should be by morals always, or by the right thing. So knowing his personality, knowing the sensation, what he expressed in his experience of the thyroid, I came to understand him a person who is very soft, gentle, but very knowledgeable, intelligent, a high performer, but not a presenter of himself. Safety was his priority, and protection of life and security was always his priority. Sensations which we got were compressed, held, stuck, shriveled, shrunk, and opposite was floating, flowing, weightlessness, being separated from that base. And issue, as we discussed, was about safety and protection and needing support. So support for him, what it means, we have seen. To go and touch the base, and the other part you can again float back. So I found that there is a womb in him, where he's an indoor person, loves sleeping, not social, quiet, reserved. Infancy, where he loves family, food, doesn't believe in others, some mistrust issues also. And calcaria like or rofor like issues, where work is important, to be performing in his career was important, resource planning was important, and security and insecurity about the life with these resources. He was always a learner and knowledge seeker. So some school age qualities also I could see in him. So taking into account all the issues, the sensations, the PEM part, I could see that he has used vulnerabilities, being attacked. I felt there is an animal kingdom, but very subtly expressed. Not that somebody is attacking me, but he's saying that I should defend beforehand. If I am vulnerable, I'll be attacked. So there is some survival issue, and the survival is coped up by getting stuck or getting the support of the earth, so that he can float back and bounce back. So I could see that a withdrawn person who likes to be at home, but also school age, where we see finances, security as his issue, early development person with these issues. I came to spongia for this person. Earlier, when he used to repeatedly have this cough, colds, fevers, or lymph node enlargement, I had used many times calcarea carb with good result, or calcarea phos also sometimes. But because of the totality what I got today is the spongia, what I could come for, and I could see that Spongia has lot of thyroid affinity along with his personality, what I got today. So Spongia is very early invertebrate. Getting stuck or getting attached is its survival mechanism. Retraction, hiding is the survival strategies of Spongia, where it lies the column 1, which our friends will take and explain how is this strategy, how is this stuck, and how is the personal evolution method of Spongia, where we could arrive at the sensation and at the age of this person. So follow-up was after 1 month. I couldn't bring the follow-up scan, but the scan showed the right-sided nodule completely disappeared, and the left-sided nodules were still there, but they had reduced in size. And definitely last 2 years, he has not visited me for the recurrent coughs and cold, which he used to come for off and on after giving calcarea carb also. So probably from partially similar remedy, I could give him something which was exactly matching him. And therefore, the recurrent problem also went away along with the thyroid nodule. So this was my case. Similar case Dr. Priya would present, and then we'll go to understanding of the remedy in detail.
Thank you, Dr. Prachi.
Thank you, Dr. Priya. You can go for your case.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So I'm just once. Let me just pin the speaker for everyone. So that... All right. So my case is much shorter. It was a very long case when I had taken some time ago. 1 second. Let me just move it down. All right. Is the slide visible? Can someone confirm?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So this case was taken in 2015, much before any idea of PM or how we use and what we do. So this woman is a neighbor. She's 49. She's still a neighbor. Her husband used to meet once in a while. So he had asked me if I could do something and help her with her complaints of difficulty of breathing. And so because of her special circumstances, she couldn't come to me and I had to go to her house to take the case. So first impressions is that she's quite short, plump, not obese, but quite plump. And there's a lot of thinning of hair in the vertex, in the front also. And she had polio in childhood. So she would walk with crutches. The right limb is affected. Very, very cheerful demeanor, but quite clingy in the sense that even to me, she would message quite often. She needed solutions for other things also, neighborly things immediately. She would pick up the phone and call. And after follow-up, she needed the medicine like immediately, within the next 10 minutes or something. Otherwise, she would send gentle reminders and things. So that way she was quite. So since I was supposed to provide solution for this breathing thing, she thought that I could provide solution for other things also. So she would call and ask me things. It's a very long case, but in the interest of time and because we have a particular theme, I have kind of removed all the unnecessary, let's say, the parts where I was trying to find the remedy, and I have kind of brought it more towards the theme. So the main thing with her was that she had a feeling that her breath would stop. She needs one of those apparatuses at night to breathe, and she's hooked onto it at night. So I remember this very clearly. I asked her, so it helps you breathe? Very casually. And very casually, she also said, no, it breathes for me. There is a feeling I don't need to do anything at all. But before this, there used to be a feeling that I would not breathe at night at all. And there would be a lot of dryness because also she snores a lot. So when we went to the doctor, he diagnosed query sleep apnea. But he suggested that, that I use this apparatus also because of my disability and things. The snoring was also disturbing her husband. So she says, so it breathes for me. But the thing is that she sleeps in a separate room. There is this big apparatus. She needs to get hooked onto it. The calipers need to be on the leg with the polio that needs to be removed at night. So it's an entire process. Then she needs to be helped into bed, and it's a special kind of bed. And this apparatus comes from up, and it is hooked onto her face. And um, husband needs to do all of this at bedtime. So he was saying that, with his age also, that he's about 10 years older than her. He was saying that, if you could get somebody at night, then it would be better that, they could maybe co-sleep on a small bed next to her so that he doesn't have to wake up in the night, because now that she's in a separate room, she would still get quite anxious that what if I don't breathe at night? So he would need to get up and check on her. But she was refusing to allow a nurse or any other help into the house, simply because she, as an individual, she's completely at home. She's homebound. She's not working anything online or any other thing. So the main thing that she does is she's at home and she kind of runs the household. She cannot do anything for herself. She needs care 24/7. Also because when the husband has to travel, for instance, for his work, they have only child. They have one child, one son, and he's now abroad. He's grown up and he's abroad for work and study. So it's just the two of them. So by default, everything would fall on her husband. And he was finding it difficult, although he had never ever complained. So the main issue now, critical issue, is that he cannot travel for work, even for one single night. She would need the mother or the sister to come and stay with her. And even before the sleep apnea diagnosis and the machine being needed and the special bed and everything, she would not go ever to her mother or sister's house. They live in the same locality. She would need either the mother or the sister to come and stay with her. Now, her mother was getting old and she was not able to suddenly just leave everything and her own household and come and stay with her. And also the husband was at a point in his career where he was kind of shifting from a 9 to 5 role to a role where he was mentoring people, and he would need to travel for 15 days and be in a place, give lectures, train those people. So he was in a very high post. And he started to, it was very tough. He said, I would need to travel quite extensively henceforth. So if you could do something, if you could find something, if you could help, that was great. And one of the other things was that he said that if you could convince her or at least counsel her to get somebody else to stay in the house, we can always hire someone. So money is not an issue, but she's refusing to let anybody else stay in the house. And for sure, she needed help in the evening, in the night, and she was just not able to be alone in the house. She was quite clingy that way. So when I explored the fears, I said, you live on the, so, what are the issues? What happens at night? If you could tell me. She was extremely fearful at night. One of the biggest fears for her was that somebody would jump in through the window and hurt her. So what would they do? In what way would they hurt her was not something that she was able to tell very clearly. But all she knew was that we are living on the first floor. Somebody can come in without my knowledge. I am disabled. And I will not know. They could be in another room. They could come out at night. They could do something. But the truth is that they live on the first floor and all the windows have bars at the outside. So nobody really can come in. So I asked, what would that person do? So she said, I don't know, not good things. And she laughed and she said that they may steal from us. They may steal from the other room. I will never even come to know. They may slowly take away things from the other room and I will never come to know because I'm in this room. And I said, tell a little bit more. So she said, this fear I've had since childhood. In childhood, in our village houses, the bathroom used to be outside. And although the walls were very high, I always used to have this feeling that somebody like an intruder is outside. And at any point, he would jump over the wall and come into the house, especially when we are out using the bathroom in the night. And he may have been seeing from outside. We don't know who's looking at us from outside. In this building also, we don't know who's looking at us from outside. They may wait And when I'm not on that side, they may come into this room and I may not even come to know that they are there. So this fear was very much there. And this fear would increase when she would be alone. And it was impossible for her to be alone. And this fear would increase a lot at night. So it was quite a long case because I just couldn't understand at that point of time, 8 years ago, where would be the entry point? What could I see? What could I do? But for sure, this fear at night, fear somebody is coming and doing something non-specific to her, that harm she would come to was there. She was definitely quite dependent and clingy. And the other general observations about her life space is that in the conversation that we had was that one of the things that she needed almost non-stop was physiotherapy, so that the limb which had polio the muscle should not have a disuse atrophy, because otherwise she doesn't get out of the house at all. And even in the house, her space is very, very limited just to the bed, and she can spend the whole day in the bed and watching TV or talking on the phone or with this iPad and things like that. Now she can even be in a call or watch YouTube videos or things like that. And the husband would need to be in the house to open the door, to let the maid in, or to do other things for her. And otherwise, he was quasi-retired. So until the particular point when her son was living with them, the son used to do all of these things. Even for physiotherapy now, but she needs her husband to go with her. She says that the payment outside the clinic is very, very slippery. It's very unsteady, and I may fall. The paver blocks are not put properly. Anything can happen. My calipers can get stuck in that. My crutches can get stuck in that. I need somebody to be there with me. Especially in rainy season, I don't go there. Now there is no rainy season, but they're doing some road work there, so the road is all dug up and it's all uneven, and I just don't find that walk from the car to the inside the physiotherapy clinic is quite okay for me. I feel that I can fall at any moment, and if I put one foot wrong, some instability can be there, and I can just fall. And I don't want to break anything else. Even for her to go out of the house, the car has to come very close to the lobby, and then she would just open the door and just get in. So, and even the car that they had chosen was the kind that for her needs. So it has a reclining rear seat. It has a big space in the boot for her big, wheelchair. And although she used to have the crutches and the caliper, she would still need the wheelchair everywhere. And the husband's main concern was that the starting and stopping physio based on the seasons and everything is not good for her muscle strength. If one foot is completely fine and the other foot we are not exercising the muscles, she will again become unstable. But she would not allow anybody to come to the house and do the physiotherapy sessions either. She would not trust anyone. And he said, okay, if we can find a lady or somebody who can be there with her, who can help her with these things, assist her, then, it frees me a little. I can at least now go and I need not worry, because then she would call him up for every small thing that, can you please buy this? Can you buy that? Can you get this? Can you get that? So even this way, she was quite dependent, 3+ dependent on him. And she would not want anybody else except the husband. So for me, it was very tough. Let me tell you that I had a lot of information, but then I went with what she's actually doing, how much resources she had, and this kind of very plant-like energy is what I got. So I was thinking of column 1 plant, anything to do with a kind of vulnerability very early in development, because I knew the plants a little bit at that point of time. But the issue was that this whole being observed, that somebody will come into the house without my knowledge. They can remove objects from my house. I will not even come to know. And this extreme dependence where she would not trust anybody. A lot of mistrust of the other was there in her. A lot of these fears, like somebody can come in, jump in, some harm. And what kind of harm, she was just not able to say. She's very, very sensitive also to things happening around the house. Any noise, anything, any change. She would call up, she would say, are you sensing some different smell in the air? Is there some gas leak in any of the buildings? Can you find out? Is there a voltage fluctuation? Can you find out from, this one? Do you have the number of the electrician whom you had sent last time? I would prefer him to come because at least I've seen him, met him once. So like this, sensitive to any changes in the house, sensitive to any changes in her environment, and making everything in such a way that there are not even minute changes in the environment around her. Very sensitive to these noises, smells as I was changing, but there was no startling in her. So borax was one of the remedy that boron or borax was one of the remedy I was thinking of, but there's no startling, there's no fear of downward movement, nothing like that was there. But I could understand that the development is very, very early. Monocots was one of the other remedies I was looking at, but having said that the focus was there completely on her, we could not completely take away the fact also that this polio had left her disabled, and dependent to a certain extent. But what I could also see was that she had a lot of resources on her own also. Left to her own resources, she could manage quite well. But she would prefer to depend on someone else. But she was not trusting anybody other than the husband. So she would, for instance, she had asked around in our building app, the WhatsApp this thing, and she had called for a beautician. This beautician would come once in every 3 weeks, and take for the personal grooming and this thing. She would make sure that the hair was dyed, and the facial was done and everything. So she was quite particular in her own way about her own looks and how she presented herself, and she loved to dress up and eat good food, and she used to always be quite smiling, big smile on her face. But it remained that she needs to be cared for completely, and the husband needs to hand over completely the household to the mother or the sister, and then only he could leave. And he was one of the most devoted husbands I have ever seen, and he's still quite devoted. And also, there is any change in his schedule, she would not like that. Like if he's traveled and if he has to stay one more day or half more day, or the flight was missed or something, she would just not like that. She would be quite averse to any change in that. So the husband said all this, but I have said all this information before also. The strong sense of being observed or something that I have not seen any plant remedy. And mistrustfulness, which is a matrim line issue, and this need that wherever she goes, that thing should be quite stable. That if she at all goes out, there should be that surface should be quite straight. She should not trip. Nothing should happen. Somebody should be there to hold her. The car should be as close to the lobby as possible. Little bit this kind of fear of injury, little bit what will happen going forward in the future. This was definitely there in her. And also this does not want anything to be changed in her environment. This was quite strong. So when I saw this, and I said that I should not lose sight of the pathology. And the main thing in that was this breathing through something else, but a lot of dryness in her air passages also. So when I looked at that, when I understood a sort of early plant-like development, and when I was looking for remedies, I remember that with this dryness, I came to spongia, and the rest of the understanding of her came as a much more retrospective understanding. That these are the early features, these are the womb features, these are the plant-like features, vague animal-like fears, needing this constant environment, they're all retrospective understandings. So hence this kind of discussion with Prachi was what was very important, because then I could see various features from her case and correlate them with features in my case and understood where, the similarities and differences are. So she got weekly ones. She developed a trigger finger on one of her, in this finger in the right hand. Spongia helped with that as well. She had a sudden fall when she was getting out of bed, and she had a fracture neck femur in the limb which already had polio affected. So she needed that the replacement and surgery. But before surgery, they said that she would need somebody definitely in the house. So even this surgery, she recovered quite well. She started allowing people to one person to be there in the house with her. She started going to physiotherapy. She the husband could travel, and these were some most big changes which were there in her. Now once in a while her husband does send for a remedy, and I do send it across to her, but by and large, I'm just removing the pin. By and large, she's doing quite well. So this is my short case. And um, I would request now, is it Manisha or Sheetal to go ahead and share your screen?
I'll go next.
Yeah, Sheetal, go ahead.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, very good.
Yes, it's visible.
Let's make it full screen. Yeah. So as Prachi and Priya discussed, I'm going to take you through a common theme of column 1 and how we could differentiate between them in brief, and take a differential of Porifera itself. There are 3 remedies which I found when I was researching, and there are some subtle differences in the way they respond and react depending on the kind of a body structure they have and where we can map them evolutionary. Um, yeah. So on the chart, when we look at it, Porifera, as we all know, falls into, if you see, there is a double womb and double water. So as Dr. Priya was sharing, right, that some of the sensations or some of the idea which is present would be this kind of a need to be extremely dependent or completely passive can be seen very evidently in a Porifera cases, because evolutionary they belong to this column 1, and there is a double, what would I say, double womb and a double water element. So whatever we see quality of womb, there is a overload of that. Whatever quality of water we see, there is a overload of that when it comes to column 1 remedies. And it is true for Porifera, Nigeria, worms, and Echidodermata, all of them. The strategy which they use is this plant-like sensitivity and creating a shell. So every as we move down, like as we all know now that this is the our columns are the evolutionary phase the remedies are in, and the columns rows represents in animal chart the developmental age, the way they cope up with the challenges which they face in their life, right? um, so I just try to make chart, because that would be helpful for our further study also. Why did I do this is because though the column 1 remedy, in the chart it belongs to, we see a womb and a womb and a water and a water, the way their body develops has a little difference. Like this parazoa group have no tissue at all where the porifera belong. And in column 1, though there is a nidaria, it has developed some tissue. And the kind of it comes into a group of radiata, which that they have a symmetry, and there is a bilateral symmetry. Like the creatures uh, can have a uh, if we cut them, you will see a radical symmetry in the body, and this mechanism they use for survival. So the body type also is there what do I say, a defense mechanism. And hence, I have just tried to put this in this way. So Nigeria would have some tissues. Then you have a bilateral, which is a left and right complete symmetry. In that, further you have this platyzoa, Lephotrochordria, and I don't know even how to spell this dizozoa, right? So column 1 remedies have this little more evolved system as we go down, and the coping also changes from Porifera to Nigeria to worms to Achedonermata. So if you see here, the Platyhelminthes falls into early part. Then there is this Lephotocorzua, which has this Brachiopoda, and this Arthropoda, where we have only this our crustaceans, and Achedonermata falls into a more evolved uh, part of this tissue formation. They have organ, they have a little nervous system developed. So hence they have a nervous system developed. The way they defend, the way they survive changes, and it is little more evolved. The coping mechanism is little more evolved. So though they are in a womb stage, you will see as we go down in the row, the way they cope up with the issues of womb stage will change. So the Porifera, which has our homeopathic remedy of sponges and Badiaga, need total support. Like how Dr. Priya's case, though they can survive on their own, their idea is to conserve their energy. They would not want to move. They would not want to do even basic simple thing in life. And Massimo and other core sources, Ellen and all, write that they would need nursing. The word they have quote put is nursing. And Dr. Priya case completely matches where this lady need that kind of a nursing. If not one person, then the other person needs to be there to take care of her basic need. It was not about some big thing which she needed support for, but very very basic thing to go and open the door or just feed and those kind of a thing, right? So very fetal like. And especially this Porifera group belongs to a stage of pre-birth or the conception. So their idea of dependency is much, much higher than the Nigeria or Echinodermata. So they perceive the need for support as completely passive. So either you will see this kind of a people who are completely in the bedridden or not doing anything, or there are people who will be in that kind of a zone where they would ask for support from the God. Abhi kya kar sakte hai na? Everything will God do. They will not make any effort. So this kind of either dependency on a spiritual God or a guru, or on the family member is seen in the Porifera group. And that's why we have a parallel with the hydrogen and a lithium line of development. Lithium line on the left side, not the right side, because if you go to right side, then it will go one stage down, either Nigeria or the worms. The second group is this Stenophora, where we have this remedy of Vati comb jelly. Then you have a Nigeria, where we have a homeopathic remedy Hydra, sea anemone, Corallium rubrum, and Nigra, and jellyfishes. Here, there is a little more evolved system in that. Porifera doesn't have tissue at all. In Nigeria, now they develop animal-like tissue. So they can react. In Porifera, there is no reaction at all. There is complete freezing. There is complete paralysis. So their idea of defending themselves, the moment they sense danger, is they become like a dead body. And in a second row, like a Nigeria group, they will have a reactivity. They would try to push. There is that stink is there as a defense. So this subtle difference, even if it's in the first column, this subtle difference we will see as they go down in the row, as they develop. So they are very sensitive and reactive, as if they just emerge out of the womb. And so they need active support like the baby. So the Porifera group required support like a very, very passive way. In Nigeria, they required support little more active. They cry, they make noises, they demand. In Porifera group, they don't even demand for support. They behave in such a way so that the people try to take care of them. So here, the parallel would be evolutionary natrum line of development. Platyzoa, where our flatworm belong. There is no organ, but the system has developed little more in them. And what Massimo and there is one Dr. Paul who has done some study on this, has written that because they have developed this ectoderma, um, there is that need to be taken care of like infant, but because they need to move in order for the worm to develop from a egg to an adult, they need to keep changing the host. So there is some action which they need to take in order to grow, and that's why they go out. So this is the first time that need to take action comes, and that's why they can be mapped and have some symptom like a toddler need to independent in their story when they describe. And the earth element might be little more than Nigeria and the Porifera. We might see some doership and need to be independent, but there is always struggle in this area. Lephotrocozoa, here is where our mollusks belong. All the mollusk group of remedy we have here, and now the organ have developed. So you will see in mollusk early childhood se leke school age tak ka, all the symptom you can see in description or a story of the patient. We have a remedy in annelids, leeches, which is hirundo, and earthworm, Limbricus terrestris. And in brachiopoda, you have a lemp shell. And this lemp shell in column 1 is in parallel to bivalve in your second column. So see, though all of them are in a womb stage of development, as evolution, as we go and map their coping mechanism, there is some subtle difference, and it is mapped with the source. How Prachi was saying, no, in this kind of a group, we have to explore the sensation and the strategy which they are using in order for us to differentiate between this remedy. So there is some internal organ has developed at this stage, and they see there is that shell has developed at this stage. Nematode group and the crustacean now at this stage have a confusion and issues of transformation, like from moving. If you see that molting process develop in arthropoda, and this group where this ectozoa come, and that's why in this group we see the issues around puberty. Like nematoda, the roundworm, you will see more of a issue of a puberty. The sex organ has not developed, and the body image issues are more common when I study the rubric, versus arthropoda and crustacean have that more of a teenager energy and trying to rebel and establish, and that fire element has come little more because they are more active in their body structure. Echidodermata are they belong to a different gland which is called uterostromata, and they developmentally they are from early childhood to the teenager. Each phylum has some primitive species and some evolved in column 1, 2, and 3 in animal chart. The primitive species can share their expression similar to the previous one. So Nigeria has some feature of Porifera. Your worms have some features of Nigeria. Your Echinodermata has some features of worm-like. While evolved species, like if you go from a second, they would go the phylum next to it. Now we all know this would be a little repetition, so I will go a little fast, but it has some parallel on the kind of a touch sensitivity which Dr. Prachi's and Priya's case shared. And this is the differentiation which we see from the cases of first column of mineral kingdom and the first column of plant kingdom. The idea of touch and the sensitivity, what Priya was describing, no, they sense the environment, would be missing in plant kingdom. Like that idea of alertness and everything can be experienced by touch is more characteristic of this sea creatures. So they being marine, like as we all have, the skin is our first defensive layer to feel as well as have a physical threat. Also, skin is the mode for sea creature for pleasure, for food, shelter, and even for mating. So it's very primitive way of existence. So it serves, every purpose is served only by one cell or tissue or organ. There is no more developed brain or heart or lungs in this creatures. And that's why this idea of the experiencing everything in whole body comes, like how Priya's case was sharing, no, that the smell, though we smell it from the nose and our experience is limited to this, in three creatures, you will see it's much more expansive. The reaction to the smell or the reaction would be much more exaggerated, and they are constantly alert and sensing the environment. This is the key differentiation, and you would invariably find in animal kingdom of this hyper alertness, even if there is that sensitivity. So sense of touch is extremely important. Either they allow you and constantly there is that need to nurse and taken care of, or they will completely be very off and would not allow you to come even closer. Like if they have this need to maintain the distance, like you keep a safe distance, don't touch me, don't come near me. So this both polarity we will see in the same case when it belongs to animal column 1. So arises from the stimulation of nerves on the surface, membrane, hair, spine, scale, and shell. And this becomes their mean for direct contact or even for the water pressure. So this porifera, they senses on that surface, like Dr. Prachi has beautifully given that case, the tube. When I go further, you will see even spongia has that two layer. There is nothing else exists, and the water flows in between that. Similar like how you have the tube tire in a tube. So for many of these early animals, perception of sensory stimuli other than a touch could be receptor, like as we go little further. And it is dispersed all over the body. So why I'm bringing this slide is, whenever we have a column 1 case, there is a possibility that the experience, even in the touch, smell, food, the experience goes all over the body. Like it is not experienced in one place. The second important aspect of this is the touch as a mean of protection, and its connection with the love. And our skin connect us to the outside world and those we love. And everything around the earth, water, fire, air element is connect. It's a first mode of connection, and it is also can be used as a protection for the column 1 remedies. Now the idea of whom we all know, what I would like to bring over here in the consciousness of this animal remedy, there is that in a porifera specifically, you have this consciousness of universe. The universal consciousness is common to all columns in all kingdoms, mineral, plant, and animal. Here, specifically to the porifera and the early womb, where you always see a double womb in either mineral, like a hydrogen, or your Nilambo and all that, Magnidile group, the womb part, where there is a preconception, the beginning, you will see both polarity of existence, life, creation, something new. And there is this idea of death also, because universe is a symbol of both life and death. So all you might see all this expression in the patient language, connection, observer, spiritual, naive, this we all know. At the same time, this idea of death and destruction also exists in them. Now I will come talk about this porifera, specifically about spongia. Their body, it is full of pores, and it is meant for allowing water and circulation, which is the life. So in Prachi's case, the person mentioned like that it is a kind of a nutrition, and the tire, and there is something that it gives him a stability. Here, so it was a kind of a source language with which that patient was talking, where the idea of that movement and a flow is required for nourishment, because the whole spongia take the nourishment through this pore and absorb everything only through water, that oxygen and nutrient. They lack cell wall. They do not have a tissue or organ. They do not have a body symmetry, no nervous system. So there is no coordination in their talk, no coordination in their movement. They can't coordinate. The basic functions are missing in a spongia people. Now, the constituents of this particular remedy or a group can be silica. Like they have a 4 kind of a different group in that: demo sponge, glass sponge, calcareous sponge, and there are some carnivorous sponge also has come, but I couldn't find any literature around homeopathic medicine made out of carnivorous plant. But we have this demo sponge, glass, and a calcarea, which is proved. So in demo sponge, 90% of the body is made up of silicon dioxide. So there is a silica, there is oxygen. In remedy, which is our sponge, are made up of this group. The glass sponge, which is mainly made up of silica like fibers. The calcareous have mainly calcarea carbonate, and carnivorous has some sticky hook-like specules which has some silica component in it. And they completely lost this water flow system like how we have in our carnivorous plant, where there is no nitrogen in the soil. Similarly, the survival mechanism for spongias are water, the flow. This carnivorous has lost that water flow system, and hence they become carnivorous, and they directly eat other animals. So PM understanding of spongia, it's a very complex remedy, because even though it's a very, very primitive, you can see expression at all this level when you map them evolutionary. So though in a story you will find, like in Prachi's case, it was predominantly calcarea like thing, and we might completely miss that it belongs to, if we don't explore this hyper agility, hyper alertness, and completely depending on the womb kind of a expression in the case. So predominantly womb, we say that can be possibility of congenital issues. There is a dependency. They express that undevelopment, formless, no structure. You will see a lot of issues around borders. Keen mucous membrane allergies are very common in column 1 group of remedy. Even spongia is known for allergies and skin issues. Netrum line of development, you will see infancy stage of stories, either mother-child relationship, trust, mistrust, how we see in Priya's case. There is a family who will take care of it. There could be stories around the gender issue, where they would not be able to decide what gender they belong to, or there is too much of femininity and struggle with establishing that masculine impulse. And hence, you will see a lot of hormonal imbalance and a issue, PCOD or thyroid. You will see a lot of food allergy in spongia. Silica uh, is a adult stage of development, because the basic body is made up of silica, and you cannot not have the silica consciousness. So the issue around relationship, anticipatory anxiety, image consciousness can be presented in the case of spongia. Calcarea line of development can come school age, but mainly we will see the description here is not about morality, not about right and wrong, but it is about challenge around cognition, because they do not have a nervous system, they do not have a brain, there is no intellect at all in them. Everything is only emotion. So whatever function we need to do through our intellect, the thinking, is hampered. Though the perception is very acute, there is no thought there. So there is only emotion and there is only perception. So this kind of a description we will see in either column 1 and specifically in spongia, where there is a learning difficulty, there is a difficulty with the industry. This Prachi's case, what I could see is very, very basic. Though he was performing, he was doing, but the idea, the whole consciousness is around whatever performance he's doing was building around safety and security. And they need to do a lot of hard work in order to reach that stage than any other person can do it easily. And hence they might develop this panic, anxiety, or psychosomatic illnesses or autoimmune diseases are very common. They may not be able to tell you, like how Priya's case, it's very hard for them when you start asking them about fear. They will not be able to describe it. The sensation, they will not be able to describe it, because for description you would need intellect, and they lack that. Challenges with building resources, making home, money, settling, socializing, pain, suffering of disease, infection, hypochondriasis, inner inadequacy. So this whole bunch of the thing which we see, except for morality, everything can come in the story of a column 1 and also can come in a spongia. Time of old age, because spongia contains iodine and bromium. So the theme of burden, guilt, betrayal, metabolic issue because it has a iodine, and memory issues can come up. It can be, there are some cases beautifully explained which they have used for the Alzheimer and dementia. They have used spongia when I was reading. Water element, mood, instability, weeping. There is a tons of rubrics which is around this weeping mood, like pulsatilla in spongia. There is a weeping disposition in spongia. Too much or too little flow, like dryness is the hallmark of spongia, because water component when it dries, so their opposite reaction, every time they fall sick, you will have this sensation of dryness. Or there is a congestion. Aquamarina symptom. Aquamarina is predominantly psychotic. So two component, very important component can come in spongia. Is in how Dr. Priya's case is, somebody is watching me, somebody is observing me, and this growth. So we all know all column 1 remedy, including spongia, and most of the C remedy have this excessive growth and glandular affection, hypertrophy, and this idea of inner weakness. So this is how we map the PM of spongia. Common themes of spongia, as we know, the mold which I have written, this is specifically characteristic to the spongia. The basic frame is lacking, basic structure is lacking. They have this idea of distance, dependency, and hyperesthesia. They would keep a distance, like they need you. At the same time, they will not connect you emotionally. This is very characteristic, and most of the cases which I read have this idea of very passive dependency on the environment. They feel like almost like a autistic thing. It is only existence, like how we say in invertebrate, no, me, those kind of a feeling you will get. But it is in this spongia, what is characteristic is it's not even like how insects or monocot will describe, I need that, or I demand this. It is zero demand, but their existence itself is such that people would take care of it. Very classic autistic children, where they just exist and other people have to nurse and take care of that food, elimination, and everything. And even in any diseases which you see, which make them dependent like this, think of column 1 and spongia. Immaturity, safe environment. This alternation symptom is very characteristic of spongia, where there is that cheerfulness versus stagnation. There is cheerfulness alternating with sadness, complete inactivity, or complete stagnation. There are many rubric. I will share it later on if Manisha has not covered, and I have done some repetition also, but because of lack of time, I have not put it on the slide. There's this fright, there's this idea of grudge, this shooting pain, because they have that spiky like structure on the body, which they use for the defense. So their body itself is a defense, and the chemical which exists in their body structure is the means for defense for the Porifera group of remedy. So they will typically have the shooting, pricking kind of a pain, retraction, and it is in the spasmodic. So what Massimo writes is this contraction, this spasms which we see in spongia is not because of the musculine principle or a little evolved what we see like in 5th subclass. It is the basic thing that when there is a pressure increased in the sea water also, they try to shrink themselves, or when they see a predator, they shrink. Like how in Prachi's case, we saw that source word shrinking and expansion. That is for the basic defense. Motion, they would not want to move anywhere. They just want to be at one place for the conservation of their energy. For them, existence happens only because they conserve their energy constantly. Like in Priya's case, I said she's capable, but she would not want to move. Even for the car, it was very strange. I didn't know that this dimension what she was sharing, but like in a car also, when she needs to get up, it's that kind of a lack of movement, because the moment they move, they die. General theme of phylum. So idea in column 1, always ask yourself that what is the survival and compensation they are using for they all are vulnerable. But what helps us differentiate between them is their survival strategy and what is the compensation they are using for coping with this vulnerability. And second important thing is what kind of a support system they expect from the environment. In Porifera, it's a passive support. The more we go down, Nigeria, Echinoderma, there is some amount of ask and active support which they seek. So as we all know, spongia has the typical sensation of stuck. There is a vulnerability, sensitivity. Passivity is the hallmark of spongia. The moment there is a threat, the moment there is a challenge, they go into freeze paralytic mode. Even if you remember, Dr. Aradhna shared in IPMA that case where the passivity, like they go into that non-active mode in a spongia case. So now I have written few slides about this. In Porifera also, we have 3 remedies. Glass sponge, which is colloquially known as Venus flower basket. It is a native of deep oceans. It is a symbol of marital love. Like they use this particular sponge when it dried up as a gift to a married couple, because there is 2 pair of shrimp which usually stays in harmony in a sponge, and they raise the family. So in a proving and in a symptom also, you will see this in a case or in their symptom. Shrimp cleans and provide metabolic waste for the sponge, and sponge attract food for the shrimp. So this idea of harmony, idea of helping other could be seen in this glass sponge cases. What is the key issue of a glass sponge? This glass sponge has the core issue of intellectual inadequacy. Like a calcarea, evolutionary, they are like a calcarea. But in glass also, they cope like a silica or a old age symptom. You will see as I read through some of the proving symptoms of this. The being feels unable to cope with the mental aspect of the life. Excuse me. They feel inadequate, particularly because they do not intellectually understand themselves or their surrounding. Hence, everything seems very strange, like a magnolidae. Like everything is lost, they can't describe, they don't know what is there. So this missing of intellect is the characteristic of the glass sponge. Thus, it wishes to avoid incarnating completely and to re-emerge in the divine. The core problem is feeling completely overwhelmed and wanting to leave life. So there could be a suicidal tendency, symptoms of suicidal thoughts, at the same time extremely scared of non-existing. So this polarity can be seen. They feel they do not have a capacity to think and understand anything, hence they have this inferiority complex. They try to do everything perfectly and systematically like silica, but when they fail, they lack this courage to explain why they are failing. So this lack of explanation is very characteristic in Porifera group of remedy, and specifically to the glass sponge. They prefer to have everything simple, easy, because complexity is confusing and intellectually unacceptable for them. They cope with this vulnerability by forgetting things. So they use this forgetfulness, not using their mind, also to defend and conserve the energy. In polarity of being grounded, this glass sponge wants to be ungrounded, but they are extremely scary. So they rigidly hold on to the ground, they rigidly follow the rules, or they rigidly follow certain structure. They have a fear of being laughed at because of their low intellect and untidiness and imperfection. So this Paul said that I say nothing on a subject because of fear of feeling. They say that I don't want to even express my opinion because I feel inadequate, like aquamarina inside, that inner weakness. Feeling of dullness, word do not come in the brain. Word are omitted and not understood. So it is extremely good remedy for ADHD, learning difficulty. We can think of now if we see and if we have this kind of expression, glass sponge. Things are immediately forgotten. Similar feeling in Alzheimer and dementia, it makes things easier. Feel as if only mechanical work is worthwhile and they do not have to think or have to act according, they only have to work according to instruction. So some children, small children, when you see autism, learning difficulty, where they are following very basic, simple instruction to exist or even do basic day-to-day thing, maybe think of this remedy where there is a intellect compromised, but other things are functional. Hectic and stress, the tubercular energy, they feel very stressed out and do everything hurriedly and too much of activity because of the opposite existential uh, thing. Like they are very slow, they are very basic, they lack structure, the all porifera, and that's why in order to cope in the environment, they need to, it feels their expression is like, there is, I need to do too much. So their schedules are full, there is no time even to breathe, I feel. And so the case might start like this of there's too much of activity, but when you explore it, it could be very basic thing like cooking or going and taking something from the market, uh, going and taking child from the school itself can be very demanding or challenging for them. I feel like I'm running out of time. Everything goes too fast because they are at one place. There is no movement. Feeling one does not create what one will without. So there is that feeling that I will not be able to exist or accomplish anything if I don't rush. So there is that breathlessness, which is common to all porifera, all three. Time seems to fly by. I'm sorry, I'm taking little more time. There are a few more slides. Um, it's simple. I do not want to have to decide anything. Complicated technical terms no longer make sense. If you keep things simple, stress is less. Complicated sentences must be changed to the simple which they can understand. There is that haunted feeling and everything seems to be messed up. These are just common thing. So I'm not going to read them. Is a physical symptom which is a repetition. Clinically, you will see ADHD, autism, developmental disability, allergy, lung and chest tissue, Alzheimer, and dementia for glass sponge. And the comparison they did with the baryta, carb, alumina, graphitis, crustacean, and other sponges. Spongia, we know, I'm just going to glance through because we all know at the core level what spongia is. Developmentally, how they are different, I have just written those key concepts in among the sponges. So glass sponge has an intellectual problem. Spongia has a social security problem. They say that need for secure social environment is necessary for them, for their existence. So they would not want to incarnate in the world if they palpate that there is no social security. Spongia feel as if they do not exist and are not incarnated without social interaction. So that's why Maganjot will take you, the heart symptoms are very, very prominent in spongia. C4 chakra, the socialization, calcarea line symptoms are strong in spongia. However, they are not sure if they can count on their social context to consistently be there for their support system. This create a hesitancy, like typical like calcarea. There is that caution, there is that hesitancy to fully incarnate and commit to the life. This can also lead to acceptance of great deal of abuse and in order to maintain that social network. These are some of the characteristics that hyperesthesia, the touch aspect which we spoke, which give them the hypochondriacal anxiety. They are afraid of being afraid. This is very characteristic. They fear, and there is inability to describe their fear. They don't know what they are scared of. They don't know how to describe that sensation. They don't know how to describe that fear, but that fear is very panicky-like and existential. They can be very flabby because of the over intake of the water or the retention of the water, or there is complete dryness. Timidity, fear, and terror, and this dryness and a spasm are the key expression of spongia. So when we think in a case, we see dryness, spasm, breathlessness, stuck, uh, and this kind of a panic, we can think of spongia. VitaliaH, it is a freshwater sponge. We found them near lake and a slow water. So the natrum-like symptoms are little less in VitaliaH. Personality-wise, freshwater sponge, so less natrum but more calcarea. So they would want to do little more. They are courageous and ambition. They want to grow in a short span of time. They fear that if they fail, they will need to start from the zero again. And this fear make them keep doing things again and again. The person might use this expression of cocoon, dormancy, heaven, inactive, as they belong to womb stage, or intense activity for a speedy growth versus the intense activity and the speedy growth. Similar to spongia, they also have a lot of fear. There is a fear of this existence. Existence seems to be uncertain and terrifying. But the core idea in VitaliaH is there is no guarantee in life. So they want to build their resources like calcarea. They want to do many things in life. Anything can go potentially wrong. And that's why they would keep on hoarding kind of a thing we can see in this remedy. They try to cope up with this fear for either by rationalizing or by escaping into the dreamlike state. Um, the compensation VitaliaH use is becoming very stout, solid, rigid, and can develop a big structure. So the idea of protection like a helix in a bivalve, I mean, in a second column, you can compare this with a helix kind of a description when in a Porifera, it is parallel to the VitaliaH because they can be overweight, but at the same time weak. They build lot of resources. They want to do many things. But the inner feeling is this not, there is no certainty in life. So there is panic, there is active congestion, soreness. There are some similar symptom like a coral. There is that elements from excessive joy. Palpitation with a pleasure is seen in many on repetization in VitaliaH. Chronic rheumatism, skin problem, muscular problems are seen. As I said, it is a fresh water, so the marine water has more salt. So natrum symptoms would be more in regular spongia in VitaliaH because it's a fresh water. You will see more of a muscular symptom. Suddenness, as we all know, aggravation from stormy weather, suffocation, as all Porifera has, food and drink cravings. Massimo writes they crave fig, garlic, onion, aversion to meat, and they have aggravation from wine. There is that teeth grinding, and lower limb problem in during menses was seen in VitaliaH. So to summarize, sponges Porifera, VitaliaH has a characteristic or a key component of I cannot incarnate because world is terrible, full of danger, but specifically insecurity. And I lack insecurity, so that's why I don't want to incarnate in the world. For a glass sponge, I do not want to incarnate because I cannot deal with the mental effort which is required in this world to exist. Whereas in spongia, I lack the social support, and that's why I don't want to exit. So this is all from me. I'm sorry I shoot the time, but I couldn't do justice without this. So I will hand over to Manisha now.
Manisha, unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Sheetal. It was very elaborate PM understanding. So after PM, let us go to the materia medica part of spongia. I will share my screen. All right. So let us start with the materia medica part. It is taken from the various source books, which give us a foundation to whatever we have heard earlier. So spongia introduction. The common name is bath sponge. Of course, Sheetal has told about the various other names also. It is from animal kingdom, phylum Porifera, family Spongidae. Now, spongia was introduced in our materia medica by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. It is found in the salty water, spongia, and VitaliaH, as told by Dr. Sheetal, is freshwater sponge. Now, preparation. How is spongia made? The sponge is roasted and the tincture is made, one sec. And the tincture is prepared by mixing it with alcohol. So we say that it is roasted sponge, which was done by Dr. Hahnemann only. So it is that old. Now, toasted sponge contains some percentage of iodine, some bromine, silica also we saw earlier, some calcareous matter because it is found in water. So all these minerals will be there. As spongia contains iodine and bromine, its action is similar to halogens, especially on the glands. The hardness of the glands, the induration of the glands. We'll see later that all about it. Now it has tubercular diastasis. because there is many a times it is found that there is family history of tuberculosis in spongia patients. Now, what is the constitution? How the patients look like? It is especially adapted to diseases of children and women who are blue-eyed, light hair, legs fiber, and fair complexion. There will be family history of tuberculosis. It is also suited to women and children with history of croup and enlargement and induration of glands. Now, croup is inflammation or infection of the trachea and the larynx and the trachea. So it is suited to that kind of patients, especially suits young person of tubercular parents who remain weak, are pallid, pale, and they are not able to thrive. So all this type of constitutions are found from the various source books I've taken. Now, what is the sphere of action? Chief action is on the respiratory organs, larynx, trachea, bronchioles, chest. Glandular structures are affected, thyroid leading to goiter, lymphatics and circulation, heart affections in heart, especially the valves are affected. Also, it affects the male genitalia, testes. Now, therapeutic range, wide range of therapeutics we have. The catarrhal affections, influenza, bronchitis, pneumonia, pleurisy, croup, all the respiratory systems. Then on the other hand, we have the glandular affections, hypothyroidism, heart, angina pectoris, valvular condition of heart, rheumatic conditions of the heart. Now, ailments, very important ailments is from dry, cold weather. Now, understanding the mind of spongia from various source book. Now, this is taken from Fatak's Materia Medica. Irresistible desire to sing with excessive mirth followed by sadness. Fear of future, tired of life. Anxiety, fear of death with suffocation. We saw suffocation earlier also in case and by PM also when Sheetal explained us. Timidity, fear and terror. Weeps with the dreams. Weeps with woofing cough. Weeps with heat and with sweat. So much of weeping tendency. Despondent about loss of sexual power. Obstinate and improper behavior. Now from Encyclopedia says, unusually cheerful. So much of cheerfulness is there. Taciturn and discontented mood. Pert. Pert is found in many of the rubrics. Witty mood. What is pert? Lively and vivacious. Anxiety as if misfortune would befall him, which he seemed to foresee. See, she is very fearful and tormented by a frightful image of a past sad event. She was very easily frightened and startled at every trifle. So trifle affects her. Fretfulness. Fretfulness is irritability. He talked and answered very unwillingly. So one side that's frightening, then other side there is irritability. Fretful and lazy. Wished to rest and was little inclined to talk. Scornful, obstinate and ill-humored. She is dissatisfied with what she accomplished. She cannot rightly help herself at work and she does not succeed. We saw the passivity. Alternately lively and lachrymose mood. Peevish, quarrelsome mood, which is from Allen's Encyclopedia. So we understand that spongia personality is frivolous. That means not having serious purpose or value. Carefree and superficial. And along with that, all the anxiety and fear and panic that is there. Now, the generalities of spongia, lassitude and weakness. This generalities is running throughout the drug picture of spongia. Extreme exhaustion of body and mind. She prefers to be perfectly indolent and to rest. Exhaustion and heaviness of the body after slight exertion. So we saw the trifles, the passivity. Now with this exhaustion, with orgasm of blood to the chest, face with anxiety and difficulty in breathing. From Borik's Materia Medica. Ebullitions of blood, that is sudden outburst of blood is there. General orgasm of blood in the chest with heat of the face and the whole body. Vessels become hard and distended with dyspnea and weakness. Dyspnea and weakness is also running throughout the drug picture of spongia. Now, very important generalities of spongia is great dryness of mucous membrane of all air passages, throat, larynx, trachea, bronchi. It is written as dry as a sponge. Sensations are formications, itching, numbness. Worse after sleep or sleeps into aggravation. This is from Allen's keynote. Feels stuffed up. Clothes feels uncomfortable. Awakens in fright and feels as if suffocating, as if he had to breathe through a sponge. This is a very important general symptom which is there in cough, be it goiter, be it heart complaints. Now, anxious, terrified look on the face, stiff without ability to move. Right? We saw that it doesn't want to move. Fainting spells when losing a breath or raising hands above head. So this is also found in many source books, raising hands above the head, fainting. Now we come to particulars. Now, what are the important particulars? Respiratory system, in which larynx is affected. There is dryness in the region of larynx. We saw in the generalities, which is aggravated by hawking. Hoarseness of voice. This hoarseness of voice is also a very characteristic symptom of spongia. Voice crack, hoarseness increasing so that she can speak only with difficulty. Voice is cracked. Hoarseness with feeling of dryness and scraping in the larynx with burning and constriction. Acute laryngitis. It is given in one of the source book that spongia 3x should be given when there is intense dryness, burning and stinging with sensation of plug in the larynx. And that is sensitive to touch, external touch. Now, very important, we all prescribe spongia daily in a clinic for cough patients. Now, what is the kind of cough? Cough is dry, sibilant. Sibilant is hissing, like a saw driven through a pine board. It is aggravated by sweets, eating sweets, cold drinks, smoking, lying with head low. Dry, cold winds is a common modality. Now, it is aggravated reading, singing, talking, swallowing. Amelioration is very important. Amelioration is by eating or drinking warm things from Allen's keynotes. Now, Boric Materia Medica says that cough, dry, barking, crouping, larynx is sensitive to touch. Again, croup, worse during inspiration and before midnight. Before midnight is also a very important modality of cough of spongia. Now again, Allen's encyclopedia. So various source books are saying about cough. Incessant cough from a place low down in the chest, where it pains as if sore and bloody from coughing. So there is soreness in the place in the chest, low down in the chest. Now dry cough day and night with burning in the chest as from something hot internally. After eating and drinking, the cough disappears. We saw earlier that it ameliorates eating and drinking. Cough is dry, barking, croupy, rasping, ringing, wheezing, whistling, all the different sounds of cough. Everything is everything is perfectly dry, no mucus rals. Allen's keynotes. It is a dry cough. On examination, we will not find any rals as such. Now the chest. One more modality of cough is every mental excitement ameliorates or increases the cough. So mentally also there is amelioration or increases the cough, mental excitement. Now the chest, respiration difficult as from a feeling of a plug sticking in the larynx, like a constriction, plug-like sensation is there. Chest weak so that she could scarcely talk with heat in the face. Short, panting respiration. So weakness in the chest, oppression and heat of the chest with sudden weakness. Now throat. Throat also is very important in spongia. Dryness of the throat. Sore throat aggravates after eating sweet things. Clears throat constantly. Now, again, after throat, we have thyroid gland. It is very important remedy for thyroid. Thyroid gland swollen, indurated even with the chill. At night, suffocating spells. Now, Farrington says that spongia is an excellent remedy for goiter, relieving the symptoms and reducing the gland to normal size. So we saw today in Dr. Prachi's case. Okay, goiter when the thyroid gland is much enlarged and there are spells of suffocation which are worse after midnight. So for goiter, it is worse after midnight, the suffocating spells. Now, goiter, various rubrics have taken from Farrington. Goiter, one or both the sides are swollen. Goiter, aching. Goiter, when there are stitching pain. Goiter, shooting pain on swallowing. And when not swallowing, slight pain. Painful goiter, which is Hahnemann's Materia Medica Pura. Class repertory says that goiter exophthalmic. Awakens in a fright as if suffocating. Because the goiter, as if he had to breathe through a sponge, Alinsky note, heart swelling of glands, which are ductless, Patak's Materia Medica. After this, we come to heart. Heart is an important system in spongia. Heart, violent palpitation with dyspnea. Again, same. Awakens suddenly at night with pain and suffocation with fear and terror. So much of fear and anxiety is there in spongia patient. Patient cannot lie on the back with head low. Valvular inefficiency, aneurysm of aorta, rheumatic endocarditis. All this therapeutics are there in spongia heart. Hypertrophy of heart with asthmatic symptoms. Pulse frequent, hard, full or feeble. It is also very much indicated for angina pectoris. I found this in many authors writing about angina pectoris. The pain is contracting pain, heat, faintness, suffocation, anxiety and sweat, which is aggravated after midnight. Now, last is male genitalia. The spermatic cord is swollen. Painful testicles swollen, bruised and squeezed pain. It is after suppressed gonorrhea or maltreated orchitis. The testes are swollen and even the spermatic cord is swollen. There is a peculiar sort of squeezing pain in the testicle and cord, which is worst on any motion of the body or even if the clothes are touched, there is pain. Now, the important modalities in spongia: worse dry cold vein, worse when it is aroused from sleep, worse any kind of exertion, worse raising arms, worse before 12 p.m., before midnight, worse eating sweets, worse ascending, better after descending, better eating or drinking warm things, which is a very important modality. Now, the remedy relationship. It follows well when you see the dry cold veins, you know that it follows well after aconite. First is aconite, then spongia. It is followed well by heparin and bromine. Now, how can we compare aconite, spongia, heparin and calcareous sulf in group? Okay, so aconite, spongia and heparin are complementary, following each other in group. What is the ailments from? When there is dry, cold wind. Chilling when warm days are followed by cold nights. That time, all these three remedies are complementary to each other. In Farrington Materia Medica, it is written. Now, first is aconite. When there is exposed to dry, cold winds, aconite is called for. The child wakens suddenly in the evening with dry, barking, crouping cough with rapid respiration, flushed face and high fever, quick bounding pulse. There is fear and anxiety. So that time you can give first is aconite. If it fails to relieve promptly, or if the child after being in contact with the dry cold winds, he gets up in the later part of the night with less fever, but a croupy hollow cough and the sound is like saw going through a pine board, spongia is the remedy. Okay, that is before midnight. However, if the child wakens after midnight when exposure to cold winds with cough, which is still croupy, but then it has become loose with the formation of mucus. And if the respiration is wheezing and there is rattling sound, and every little exposure to cold wind, it gives rise to cough, then you can think of heparin. Heparin is the one remedy which will cure the case. So this is how the complementary relationship is described. Heparin is for the later stages of croup. And if it is same symptoms of rattling cough, but if the patient is hot, you can go for calcarea sulph. Now again, if I have to differentiate cough, dry cough of spongia and dry cough of Drosera. Spongia has dryness of all the respiratory passages, trachea, larynx, bronchi. It is a croupy cough, whereas Drosera is violent, barking cough, and it is a woofing cough. There is hoarseness of voice in spongia, and in Drosera, there is tickling in the throat. Spongia, it is better by drinking and eating warm things. Here it is more of vomiting, dry cough. There is epistatic bleeding from the nose and the mouth in Drosera, and it is aggravated by eating, talking, and laughing. Whereas spongia, it is better by eating and drinking warm things. Spongia aggravated before midnight, and Drosera is after midnight. So this is because they come very close. You can differentiate like this. Now, shall I take the rubrics or?
No, I think this is good enough, Dr. Manisha. I think you have the detailed and differences.
Yes.
So, and Maganjot can actually continue then. So that, you know, at least.
Yes. So I will stop share. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manisha.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you for setting the stage. It's been an excellent discussion of spongia, very elaborate, and it's so wonderful points which we really miss usually in the clinic. So we've all discussed about the MM, the PEM. Now is the time to deeply dive into the chakras, the hot topic. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead, share.
Yeah, just 1 second, please.
I think you're on the last slide.
Yeah, is this okay?
No, I think you're on the last slide. You need to stop sharing and scroll up to the beginning of the slideshow and then you share from there.
Okay.
I'm seeing the last slide.
It is kind of stuck now. I don't know why. My screen is loading. That is what it is saying. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
So I think it's saying your screen is loading. I don't know why this is taking time.
Maybe stop sharing and then start again.
That's what I'm saying. It's stuck there.
Do you want to maybe log out and then log in again? Would that help?
Okay. I will.
No, I think stop sharing and share again.
No, but the stop sharing is not happening. Actually, it's stuck.
Can you see your slide at presenter?
No, I'm also stuck. Everybody's stuck. I don't know why.
Is the spongia state?
Like the spongia, yeah.
Energy of spongia.
Something is hindering.
Spirit of spongia has entered in presentation.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Okay. Any comments related
then you can take
when
the question.
Maganjot is sorting out, Prachi, any comments related to your case and mine which you see similarities? We can just do that then. And Maganjot, take your time, figure it out.
Yeah. Like Sheetal shared, lot of calcarea symptoms are seen in my case more prominently than the natrum symptoms, or more of the doership, the toddler age and the resources. The school age also is seen prominently here. So after listening to Dr. Sheetal, I was thinking whether Badi Yaga also comes very close to my case, was my thinking.
Yes. And male, your patient is male, my patient is female. So the complete lack of movement, she can sit in the bed the whole day and is completely passively taken care of, was something which was very common.
Correct. Both like what Sheetal said, automatically we go and help such people. That passivity was prominent in both.
And I suppose it would be more characteristic in a male because we expect them to be in the outside world. But in her case, what worked for her was this. She already had polio and this, but she had very lot of resources within the house. But she was still not going out. She still doesn't go out much. But now they have a person who is living with them, who's taking care, which she has allowed now. So this is the big difference. So in her state, I don't expect that tomorrow she'll start working or something like that. But this complete passive dependence on the husband has decreased, and he's able to travel. So this is a big thing for them.
Yeah.
Also, this fact that the borders are so porous, no, that on the first floor also, even with the windows having bars, anybody can jump in and take things on an ongoing basis, and she will not even come to know about it. So vulnerable and will not know what to do. The
So
border.
this also gives the thin borders plus a little animal theme to it.
Yes.
It's not only sensitivity of emotions, but something would be taken away from me.
So if you ask me why I didn't give Badi Yaga, I had no consciousness of Badi Yaga at that point of time. Now we are, like
hearing and
we
learning.
are in the post-grad level, so we are.
Still makes sense as a spongia, or because you had more natrum line versus, even we don't know. I mean, it might have characteristic, but what I found characteristic in Prachi's case is that simplicity. They are very happy with थोड़ा सा काम कर लिया तो बहुत खुश है, उसको कोई कॉम्प्लेक्स जीवन नहीं चाहिए, is what the pulse I got from Prachi's case. की performance is also limited. It's not that ambition of doing something extra and going out.
No, it was not ambitiousness at all. It was knowledge gaining for filling self. मतलब उसको ही चाहिए था कि I should know.
Yes,
it's not the toddler like thing where he has to grow. Not at all.
Right.
With this person, where is the best coffee? Send me the number. Who is this best maid? Send me her number. So I'll have the electrician's number. I'll have this one's number. Calling her husband will do. Getting the coffee powder, her husband will do. Even online ordering, her husband will do. But that information that, that I have this resource. This is what she wanted. And she didn't cook because she was not a foodie. She would eat anything. So she would stand in the kitchen and cook, but everything else was provided for her. They had people coming in even to chop the vegetables and things like that. So completely.
Can I add some, Dr. Priya?
Yes,
this is Dr. Jyoti here.
Yes, Dr. Jyoti.
Yeah, I have unmuted. Yeah, all these things, very important when we treat thyroid diseases, hypothyroidism and all. Till I read Dr. Dhanipkar's book, I didn't know spongia can be used, because instead of the spongia, I think we were using Drosera more, because it has lot of similarities. So now, as somebody told, the ladies who even in the morning clinic, they want her husband to take leave and accompany her.
Yes.
All this, all those things. Now it is more of spongia than any other remedy. So there it is very useful. Another thing is a lot of old people with the cardiac asthma. See, who are on Lasix, you can give spongia in such cases. It's very effective. And I have seen they reduce that Lasictone or Lasix after they taking everyday dose. You cannot give just one dose and wait, because it is a everyday phenomena of filling the water in spaces. So you better give every day. So they are so happy because the Lasix, 200. Yeah. That is not so effective in my, maybe it is my mental makeup also. I give lot 200. But
I
200
have
is really
spongia 6 also, as low as 6 for such cases where Dr. Jyoti is sharing that type of cases. Cardiac asthma, 6 has also worked well.
Because Lasix is causing lot of weakness, They feel by the end of the day. So instead, you want to reduce, you try spongia. It is giving very good
and
results.
Also because the borders are already porous, I think they are more in danger of losing the water and feeling that dehydration. And did you use thyroidinum at all as intercurrent, or you didn't need to use?
No, only in 1 month this nodule went away. So no thyroidinum was used.
But very nice. So many pathologies are there in the source book when I was going through this.
Dr. Priya, I'm ready. Is this
Dr. Madanjot. Yes, you can make it full screen.
Right. Okay, so let's start with the chakras, and that's something which is today we are going to start with the Porifera, especially focusing on spongia. So how do we pick up chakras in a remedy of a patient through the latest tool which Sir has been very kind to give us on? So this is the common chakras which we are dealing. They are energy centers. There are thousands of energy centers, but we are usually limiting ourselves to only 7 of them. And the 7th one is just above the head, which is again not used as a disease part, but the first 6 are the one which are usually used for major treatment part. So today we will first assess how we can pick up chakra of spongia. The first chakra which we see in spongia would be all dependent upon where the spongia is lying on the animal chart. So in the animal chart, we all know there is invertebrate and vertebrate. So invertebrate itself is chakra 1, which is like invertebrate qualities and the traits like panicky, survival is the main thing, instinctual, survival, sexual, only for the reproduction. So these are the chakra 1. Similarly, when, one second, let me open the pointer. Thanks. So similarly, chakra 1 also comes from this gestational age, which is a womb stage. So there is double womb, as Sheetal said. There's a double load of womb, one from the invertebrate and one from the gestation. So the chakra 1 is the first chakra. Now let's see what is first chakra at all. So first chakra, it's lying just at the base of the spine. And I'm going just to hurry up because these are very theoretical things. So the main issue is the survival, how to survive on this earth. And the patient gets very panicky because they have to preserve their physical identity, the physical body. That's the main thing. So the fear is there, always lurking there. So the panic, need for support always comes from this want for self-preservation. And as in the first case, Prachi's case, it was floating. So if it is an excess, it is heaviness. Otherwise, it's light, spacey feeling. This is what we very well see in the chakra 1. And the most common chakra 1 traits would be basic security of the physical body through money and health. So they will be very hypochondriac. They will always keep on testing. And the state of coping mechanism would be frozen in spongia especially, because they always being in an alert mode, and that is the fight or flight, but they usually freeze because they are not, spongia is not moving. It's like a plant, but it is animal. So the panic and the frozen state is what we see usually in the spongia patient. Now, the second chakra, what we see is the water. Now, we see the first column is, the element is water. Similarly, the beginning is also water. So the double load of water. And what is water? It is infancy. If according to the Rick-Rickson stages and the elements, what we all know is infancy. And what is infancy? It is chakra 2. So looking at chakras and the PM is very similar. If you know PEM well, your what is your inner age, we will be able to pinpoint towards the chakras as well. So this chakra is the chakra 2. And now let's read what is chakra 2. So chakra 2 is usually emotion. So infant, how is infant? Instant gratification, no demand, but it is passive. As we saw in the whole of the case, the passivity was the trait. No demand for the care, but the care is needed, right? And how does that care comes? It comes through mother. So it's more related to mother or the immediate family member. So in the chakra 2, we see that the emotions are, the patient would be very emotional, but yes, need for care. And this lies at the lower area in the around the navel, and it also covers 2 developmental ages. One is the infancy and the second is the young adult. And the young adult part covers the silica part of the remedy. So this silica part is very, very important, and the natrum part is very, very important. Both the things are covered in C2. But C2, I will explain you how to understand the adult part, the young adult, which is the mirroring we'll take in this lecture itself. So the basic traits of C2: emotional identity, sexuality, feeling, senses, and the pleasure is the main thing, right? So once the body is built, you have the grounding, but what are you now to do? Next, enjoy the through the 5 senses. So the sensory inputs happen and you enjoy, and the excesses can go into bad addiction, indulgence. So that is why because of the indulgence, the grief comes, and the self-doubt, the trust and the mistrust also comes from C2. Dr. Priya's case, the trust part, the thieves trust, you can't trust anybody. That's what is coming from C2. The rigidity, if it is in deficient. So Sheetal was explaining about the rigidity, the spasm. It's coming from C2 and the mirror chakra C5. So this we will explain in later part of the lecture. So the immediate is self-gratification, and this is the orientation. The patient would always want to gratify the pleasures, the emotions, the things, and the need for the care. Now, the next chakra, what we see in Spongia would be the C4, the school age. Prachi's case was very clear on C4 about rules and no shortcuts. So C4 in chakra, in Spongia, would be seen through the 4 cycles of chakras. So the last lecture we did the childhood cycle and the adult cycle. This time we will be dealing with womb and old age cycle. So in the womb cycle, which is the cycle 1 of the journey, there are 4 stages, C1 to C4, but in this C4 of the womb cycle. Now, what is C4 of the womb cycle? Though the patient is in the womb, but they are out in the world. They are in the school age, but they're thin skin, like in ranunculales we did. So thin skin. So they need protection now from others, not only from family. So they need protection and a support from others. Like in Priya's case, she was seeking protection, or she was seeking support from Priya, a neighbor, right? So this is what is C4 of the womb cycle. So this actually, the C4 covers the heart, the chest, and the lungs. And the heart pathology is what we see, the valvular pathology is what we see here in the Spongia are covered by C4. And the balance and the love, the main issue is to be loved and to love. And the school age and the mature adult age. Now, the mature adult age is something which is again the adult cycle. So we will discuss those cycles again as we proceed further. So the palpitations, the asthma, the bronchitis, the catarrhal part all falls under this chakra. And now what is the orientation? What is the thought process of the patient? Because C1, C4 is actually the image identity, right? It's the social identity. It's the air and the ether. We all share the same air, right? So we are born to each other. And this air element is something which is like a heart chakra, right? And this is like we have to accept others, then only we will be able to accept our own self, right? So the main orientation would be accepting others, or am I acceptable? Accepting oneself. Okay, so this is heart chakra and it lies at the chest area. Okay, so now the next chakra, which would be covering the Spongia, would be chakra 5. We all know that the Spongia, it has a tubercular diathesis, and we've been reading since our college times. school as this is C5 is the adolescence, and which is the tubercular diathesis. And this pathology of the nodules in the neck or the gland, which both the cases did show, is actually the C5. So we will learn how C5 is seen in this. It is in the mature side, but still we see it is just because of the mirroring. Now, mirroring is a very big concept which we'll be discussing in a short while. So as of now, just understand that the C2 is going to reflect in C5, which is the mirror state of C2. Okay, so C2 and C5 are the mirror. They are alike. So they are actually the part of similar lessons, but in a different age. So if the age in infancy is the childhood, in the adult, it would be the adolescence, it would be towards the higher cycle, this adult cycle. Now, what is C5? C5, it is lying in the throat, neck, shoulders, and the jaw. And the main issue is communicate, speak your truth. What is the inner truth? It is the one which not is required by others. In C4, we were doing what is required by others to be accepted. Now, you have to speak your inner truth. This is what is the main focus on, to speak and to be heard. So in the childhood cycle, we will call it as adolescent. In the adult cycle, we will call it as late adulthood, which is the C5 we were talking of. And in the excesses of C5, it will be inability to listen. There would be stammering or stuttering. But in the deficient cases, there would be fear of speaking, and there can be aphasia or a poor rhythm. And the pathology would come on parathyroid, thyroid, vocal cords, throat, ears, voice, neck. There can be tightness of jaw, again coming from the spasms, which is covered here. So the basic part of the throat chakra, which is the Vishuddhi chakra, is the purification. The inner gate is opened, and this is the time when we contribute to the world, contribute to the others of whatever creative part we have. This is the second cycle. Okay, so artist, a musician, a teacher, or a healer, they would always be in this C5, right? So this is like a very in give and take, but yahan par we are only giving. Okay, we are giving back to the world. This is also an internal gateway between the mind and the body. So the lower chakras are like the body. First three lower chakras, heart is in the middle, but the throat is the gateway to the higher chakras, right? So for the spirituality, this chakra is very important. The summary of the spongia, we can grasp. C1, the womb, C2, the infancy, C4, the heart chakra, and C5, the throat chakra, right? So this is the 4. So like an umbrella, chakras are covering the symptoms. We've just discussed them, the tubercular diathesis, the pathology, the nodules, and the myxome also, and the sphere of action. So this is such a beautiful thing that any remedy can be explained well through these 4, whatever chakras the remedy is coming up. So the latest PEM, the sensations, the issues, the coping mechanism of PM charts is very well explained through these chakras. So issues we can see through the why it is coming, what is the orientation towards, and what is the coping mechanism, the withdrawal is very clearly seen in the chakras. Now let's discuss the two topics, the cycles and the mirroring. So let's start with this 4 cycles. This is the chart which Sir had shared with us. So we all know there are 4 cycles: womb, childhood, adult, and old age. This much we all are aware. This is the total chart where we would be able to understand which all chakras we did and the elements of them. Like in the heart, I said air, the throat, it's the sound. sound comes from rarefication and compression, like an adolescent. So adolescent needs space. It comes from rarefication and compression. The compression felt by an adolescent is the sound element. And the communication we've talked, adolescent, and to speak the truth, it's a creative, it's a self-expression, and all the features I've labeled here, this is just for reference, and you can revise on this. Now, this 4 cycles, what we were talking, is actually very similar to the water cycle on this earth, right? So how to map and understand the 4 cycles? This is what is an example. So whenever a womb word womb comes to us, is something within, yeah? It's not exposed. So the water body, from where the water cycle starts, is the womb. In any case, spongia we did is in water, it's womb, so it matches so well. And this water body, wherever the activity is happening, the water vapor has to just start its journey. It is the heat coming in. So it is the receiving end. It's at the receiving end, but the activity is not seen outside. So that's why it's called womb cycle. And the 4th chakra, which we saw here, was womb, though womb, but still need support from outside. The 2nd chakra is the childhood cycle. This childhood cycle is more like a water vapor coming out of the water body, and this water vapor taking its shape, size, ego identity, physical identity, creative, everything individually. So it's not collective, right? It's individual. This was mono, only the receiving end. This is also mono, individual. And this water cycle gives us a very clear picture of this is the childhood cycle. Now, as the water vapors rise up, they would get together like an adult cycle. Adult cycle is give and take. So it would kind of rise up and they would merge, they would kind of interact between them, they will collect, make bigger water, and hence the adult cycle is very clear here. Finally, the adult cycle, after the condensation, the precipitation happens, the rain happens. Rain is more like coming back to the water body, coming back to the oneness, coming back to the universe. So this is the merging, the dissolving of what was formed in the childhood cycle. So very clearly, the cycle kind of keeps on going from womb to childhood to adult to old age, and then again comes back. Right? So this is what is the concept of 4 cycles, what we have kind of just, seen through that chart, which Sir shared us. So this is just a gist of all the 4 cycles. So womb cycle covers chakra 1 to chakra 4. And similarly, the old age also covers chakra 1 to chakra 4. It is the beginning part. It is mono. And it is just the integration and the mono again, individually dissolving. The adulthood and the childhood cycles are similar. They are from chakra 2 to 5. Same is chakra 2 to 5 in adult. This is what these two we discussed last time, but still I will put the slide here for a quick review. So in the childhood cycle, one would only learn about oneself. It is about me. That is why it is called mono, like a water vapor, right? In evaporation, water vapor getting heated, that is at a receiving end, they evaporate and they separate from oneness as a vapor, getting its shape, it's incarnating, it's manifesting itself, but still at the receiving. In the adult cycle, the theme would be interaction, quality of life, learning about other and outside oneself. So it is give and take. So the example is condensation. All the water vapors get together to work. So the interaction happens to give and take from each other. This is contributing. And the old age is like a gradual withdrawal, right, from the worldly affairs. It's merging. The two separate sexes the masculine and feminine, they kind of merge. It's beyond polarity. And it's inside oneself, looking into oneself. And the precipitation happens, and that is where the vapors are liberating their so-called bodies, which they have shaped themselves in the childhood cycle. And this liberation is going to go merging and dissolving and returning back to the unifying or the complete oneness. The childhood and the adult cycle, which we did last time, I'm just giving you a quick revision. So it covers chakra 2 to 5, not the chakra 1, because the womb is now done. So this is the functional part. So the infancy is the chakra 2, we have just learned. Toddler is a chakra 3, though we did not find any toddler fire in Spongia, but still this is part of explanation, so we are giving you. So C4 is the school age, which is C5 is the adolescence, and the meisms covered in the school age childhood cycle would be different than the mature cycle. So this is what we discussed last time. So infancy in childhood cycle is acute. In chakra 2, in young adult is ringworm. Similarly, in toddler, in childhood cycle is typhoid meism, and in young adult, which is the second toddler, is ringworm. And in school age, in childhood cycle, the meism is Sora, and in mature adults, it is psychosis and cancer. And adolescence is malarial meism in your childhood cycle, and in late adulthood, it would be tubercular meism. So in Spongia, we saw this, right? The tubercle meism, that is the late adulthood. So today we do the womb cycle and the old age cycle. So as we did both the cycles now, these are similar. But the only difference is it would cover chakra 1 to chakra 4. And the 5th chakra, which is the adolescent chakra, is not seen here. Why? Because it is a transition phase. And yahan par only the womb is working. It's within the womb. Once the raining has happened, the precipitation has happened, the water has to travel so many areas from streams to underwater to reach its destination to the ocean. So there would be no adolescent factor there. So chakra 1 in the womb is a double womb. It's complete dependence, and it is like a placenta. It's in the womb. So we will be talking about the matrimonial remedies here. And in chakra 2, the infancy part, it needs protection from mother, which is like an amniotic fluid. Chakra 3, which is a toddler, the work has happened, the action has happened. So it has separated from the mother, is like an umbilical cord. And the chakra 4, the school age, which we saw in Spongia, they are out, but they are thin-skinned. They need protection from others. From mother, total dependence, mother protection, mother separation, and now comes the other people around you. This is more like a vernix, this layer on the baby. In the old age, all these 4 chakras would be showing in reverse manner because we have to go down now. So as we say, as the loop usually comes this way and then it goes this way. So it would be like in plant chart also we see these kind of things. So in the reverse womb, there is a negative security. There is a survival danger like womb, but there is negative security. And the example would be being mystic. In chakra 2, there is an infancy, emotions are there, love is there, but it is now an old person who is not being loved, who's not getting the love which the child was getting. So it's losing the love of people. There is some thought of the focus is there. And it is like a healer. Chakra 3 would be like a reverse toddler. I am not able to perform. I am not able to act. So it is like losing autonomy. And it is like becoming dependent. So inner age would be the reverse toddler, that I am not active and mobile and can't function. Chakra 4 would be like a reverse school age. So what will be an old person wanting to be? at home. He would not like to go to parties and interact with people too much because he needs his own space and he wants to be in a resting phase. So this is like all the reverse chakras of the same type as the womb. I hope this makes clear.
Yes, it's very clear, Maganjot.
Thank you.
We
So
can
now I'm just
questions if somebody has any issues, and
yeah.
we can...
So the 4 cycles of these chakras, are very clearly, now I'm listing them in one chart for a quick reference. So womb is the beginning and it's a cycle 1. We have just discussed the 4 chakras. I'm just naming them, and the inner age is mentioned here: double womb, infancy, toddler, and school age. And here we mentioned reverse womb, reverse infancy, reverse toddler, and reverse school age. And similarly, childhood cycle and adult cycle. Now, every cycle is almost mono, but only the adult cycle is give and take. So there is no womb here, and there is extra adolescent here. We've just discussed these, and the mesoms also covered. So the mesoms are covered in the 2 cycles, the childhood and the adult. And if we talk about womb cycle as a whole, it is the acute meson. And if we talk about the old age cycle, it is the leprosyphilitic meson. So I've mentioned on the top that whole of this would show leprosyphilitic meson, and whole of this would show acute meson. So that is why the double load comes onto the patient's symptoms, that which meson they are covering and which cycle they are in. So then this is the gist. Now, I hope this chart would look familiar after understanding through the water cycle, how the womb, how the childhood cycle, how the adult cycle. So this is like a womb water body. This is like a water vapor. This is like a condensation, the clouds, and this is like the rain, reverse condition. So sir has nicely written all the ages and everything here in colorful manner, and you can now refer this for your clinics. Okay, now the next part, the mirroring. This is the new concept which many know, but we will still open it for discussion also here. So what is mirroring? In mirroring, we will use 6 chakras. We will not use the 7th chakra. So the 6 chakras are kind of the basic: chakra 1, chakra 2, chakra 3, chakra 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So we know if we fold it at the 6th part, the 3rd part, we will kind of overlap to each other. So I'm just going to represent it through the ages. So we know the age, the childhood age, we call it as unconscious womb. The infancy, these are the Rickson ages: toddler, school age, adolescent. So we don't have an old age in the childhood cycle. In the adult cycle, we don't have a womb stage. We have a young adult. We have young adult 2, which is the second toddler, and which we have the mature adult, which is again, we'll be dividing into 2. And then goes the late adulthood and the conscious womb, which is the old age. Now, if I divide here and fold it, it will come like the next thing. Why we are taking these Rickson ages is that very clear that half of the first cycle, like first 3 ages of the childhood cycle, and the next 3 ages of the adult cycle, these are mirror ages. Now, why we take half of a childhood cycle and half of adult cycle? Can anybody think on it? I just mentioned that these are very similar issues, but we are in the adult cycle, we get a second chance in life. Whatever lessons are to be learned in childhood cycle, if we tend to miss them, when we go in an adult cycle, we get a chance. And the issues are very, very similar. Now we'll see them in detail, how the issues are similar and how the things are mirroring to each other. Okay, so this is what I tried to put the clipping here. So the womb, the infancy and the toddler of the childhood cycle, I'm taking the adult cycle, the next 3 ages, mature, late and the old age. So we see very clearly where is the folding coming up. It's just like a folding of paper, right? And where is toddler coming? It's very matching towards the mature adult 2. So mature adult 1, we divide into 2 halves. So this is C4A and C4B. So it's just like stretching the mature adulthood to a certain extent and dividing into the first half and the second half. So first half is the peak, the mid of the journey of one's person. It is like the already achieved. So we can see very clearly it is at the summit, and the toddler and the mature are similar, infancy and late adulthood, and the unconscious womb is matching the conscious womb, the C6. Okay, hope this is clear till now. Any queries? I'm moving ahead, assuming that things are clear. So this is something which is mirroring of chakra. I have tried to put the key points of all the chakras here. We can read through quickly so that we can understand in a better. So as I said, the peak is Anahata chakra, the C4A. The social identity, it's the peak, it's the center, it's the completeness, it's the persona and the image which comes here. But there is some guilt and the self-acceptance, as I explained to in the C4 chakra. And to be loved, it's the psychotic nihilism and the school age, and it's more like a spiritual age of Rajasic. The second thing what we see here is the C3 and the C4B. Now, C3 is more like an ego identity. And person talks about career, achieving, proving, doing, acting. It needs validation, bringing change, fire element. And the super ego is dwelling at this age. And there can be shame, power is needed. It's a Rajasic. The Rajasic are the these three. I will talk about in the next lectures, if required, about the spiritual ages. So it is more like a dynamic masculine, which is individually working. And it's a toddler stage, we all know, and the self-definition is something which is required. Now, in the C4B, so the toddler is somebody who would fear falling, because he's trying to act and prove as a toddler. Similarly, C4, which is the Cancer mism, it's an over-responsible person, and he also has a fear of falling or failing, I would say, because it has achieved the peak. So now the fear of holding on. There is a holding on and there's a fear of falling and failing, and it would hate the changes. So the perfect control is required here, though it is a school age and it's a middle age, right? Late middle age. And it fights the destruction part. The element here is air and ether both, and the demon is guilt. So these two are very similar. The second thing what I see here is the C2, that the infancy row, which we saw in Spongia very clearly. The Spongia, like it is very emotional. It needs sensory enjoyment. So takes the sensory inputs, like Dr. Priya's case, as it said, the environmental inputs, and she's on an alert. So the sensory enjoyment is the theme of basic, but the C2, the sensory, is supporting the C1 survival because of getting alert. Hope it makes sense. So C2 is kind of in senses, feeling the world through senses. The main theme is enjoyment through senses, the sex, the food, the other things. But it would also be used for your survival. So C2 helps in C1. So the C2 actually is the sensory enjoyment, and it usually focuses on sexuality. The addictions can be there. It is feminine, but static feminine. It's an infancy stage. The main thing is to feel, and the element is water. The grief and the doubt and the trust and the mistrust are the things, and the self-gratification, and it's more like a negative thing of tamasic. Similarly, the C5 has the creative identity, the communication, the creativity, the self-expression, download from universe. Element is air and plus ether. To speak, the need to speak, the need to creative enjoyment. The mism is the 5A, the malaria in the childhood cycle, and 5B, the tubercular in the adult cycle. And dynamic feminine, which is individuating. Now one is individuating. So demon is lies here, and it's a sattvic, this thing. So the example commonly what we get is the natrum. So natrum is emotional, sad, but it is C2. It would show and reflect through the poetry, the creative part in C5. Make sense? So C2 is reflected in C5. And similarly, the C1 is reflected in C6. So C1 is the basic survival, this physical identity, the body, and it's dark. It wants to incarnate, manifest. There are so many fears, panic, physical body existential fears, the womb stage, and the element is earth, grounding, and self-preservation is the main orientation. To be here, it's more tamasic, again, the negative spiritual energy. And the C6 is it is the archetypal identity, the inner song. It's in the destructive mode, so it's more lepro-syphilitic mism. And it's to see, and the anger and the rejection and the divine eye are the part of these. And the enlightenment, wisdom, the detachment also comes here, the dissociation. It's going to withdraw, right? So it wants to leave now. It wants to liberate. We talked about the rain. It is liberating. It's just leaving its body. Element is ether and self-reflection, and the demon is illusion. We are coming to understand that this whole of this journey is illusion. Now we have to get out of this illusion and go for the inner higher purposes. So just a quick reading here. So the early middle age is 4A. This is what we've discussed. It represents a psychotic miasm. One has achieved what one wanted. He works towards the manifesting the good image that he has developed. And this is the center of the curve. C1 and C6 are the spiritual. They show a God attachment. The only difference in C1 has no separate consciousness. C1 is absolutely one with God, and it's coming from oneness, whereas C6 has a conscious effort to be one with God. But this is, again, talking about God and spirituality through the detachment. So both deal with insecurity and survival issues. In both womb and old age, one faces the fear of death. Both deal with unconscious mind. Now the C5 and the C2. C2 has to do with sensuality, enjoyment, the sensory inputs like the touch, taste, smell, sight. C2 seeks pleasure from these inputs. C5 is a spiritual chakra. It also drives pleasure, but these pleasures come from within, not from outside. So it seeks creative inputs, which gives him immense joy and satisfaction. So the outside in gives you satisfaction in C2. Inside inputs give you joy and satisfaction in C5. That's the adult cycle. C2, we open gates that allow the world in through our senses. In C1, we were closed. We were protective, frozen. We were not allowing. But in C2, we are now allowing the senses to be taken care in stimuli from environment. In C5, we open the gate that allows our inner self to get out of this world, and time to give back to the world which is your contribution. C chakra is the internal gateway between the mind and the body. We've just discussed this. Now the C3 and the 4A. This is the last we've just discussed this is just a quick revision. So the toddler needs to become autonomous. He must take charge of life. He talks about achieving control over his activities. He functions from cause and effect. There is a fear of failure, fear of falling. This would result in shame and embarrassment. He would want to prove himself. In say C4B, which is the Cancer miser, he would need superhuman control. He cannot let go, and he would be in full charge so that the things don't fall apart. Fear of losing what he has achieved. So he has a fear of falling and fear of failure. So the mirroring, we see these many words and virtues are similar to C3 and 4B, C2 and C5, and C1 and C6. This is called mirror of each other. We see that we encounter the same developmental stage as we grow older, but the process is reversal from receiving to giving in the adult. So in childhood, we are receiving, in adult, we are giving. C4, which is the late middle age, is mirror of C3, which is toddler. C5, which is late adulthood, is like infancy, which is C2. C2 and C5 are often the mirror stages, very common seen in many cases, which is our spongia case. So this is why I'm highlighting here. This is the spongia where the C5 was seen and the throat chakra was seen there. The problems in one will often be reflected in the other. So this is what we have finally learned. C1, C6, C2, C5, and C3 and lower half of the 4. I hope this visualization helps you. Is this clear enough? And this is the final chart for reviewing, which we have just discussed. And this is, I think, good for today. I hope this makes sense and it is useful for you in the clinics. I will just open this chart, which is search chart, and you can all understand. If you have any questions, I'm open to that. Can I stop sharing, Priya?
Yes, please. Yeah, sorry, I had a bout of cough. Something is stuck in my throat. I think I'm just going to drink a little water. If somebody can.
Spongia state.
It would be, yeah.
Warm water, please. What an excellent. It's just mind-blowing today. You guys have been fantastic, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think that things are clear, and we would be now able to use the mirroring and our 4 chakras, which is being taught by Sir more often and easily in our practice. I think we can wrap up. Priya, if there are no questions. Or...
Yes. If there is anything anybody wants to say, we can just have a last word and we can wrap.
No, thank you everyone. It was really a superb session. Thank you so much.
Maganjot in great detail. Very nice. Manisha also, Sheetal also. Really provided the cases.
Thank you.
So Materia Medica was totally different in the sense it was at one axis, but still it covered many of the physical symptoms like goiter, dryness, and lack of exhaustion, which were the passivity of spongia. So I was like, it was great learning for me also when I was studying for the Materia Medica that way.
But too much to absorb in one day.
No, you can understand, and Sir has been always kind of, making use of chakras in all cases these days. So we have to update ourselves.
Yeah,
It's
but your understanding is really good.
like physical symptom, PM and chakra combination with the case was like just understanding all the dimensions so far as Spongia is concerned. Even
Totally.
Manisha,
Complete learning of Spongia. All dimensions universally.
All.
Amazing.
Yeah, all.
Superb, superb.
I
Very
agree
nice.
with Manisha. When you read the source books, we cannot see how to put the thyroid, how to put the glands, how to put the baby. So this chakra is such a good umbrella. I'm really fascinated and love to work on it as much as we can. I think Sir has been such a benevolent teacher that he's always teaching us the latest tools. So since years we've been all practicing, and we could not understand Spongia to this depth unless we worked on chakras.
But Maganjot, without the book has not yet come, and you have such a good understanding of chakras.
In bits, Sir gives the ideas. I keep on jotting down and try to understand. That is what is understanding. That is why Sir is such a good teacher.
Sir ne pura chakra liya na module. It was like really exceptionally good what he shared.
I think this can be a full day module. And Jyoti's tip was also very good.
I've kind of limited so many slides just to put them in time, but somehow it still whatever took.
No, the slides are really very expressive, and it is totally expressive. Concise, precise, and very much perfect. It's very good.
Juice निकाल लिया मतलब.
Yes, pura juice निकाल लिया.
Edited the book, but Maganjot has so many questions, even I'm not able to answer them. So I think only after Sir in ITC will be able to.
So we all are learners. I think we are all studious learners, and
now I'm waiting for the recording too much. Should get a recording.
Yeah, we would really have to go through the recording.
I told you, it is too much to absorb in one day.
Too much to absorb.
Several times, not just once.
Now the birds module people will start messaging because I said this morning I'll send the replay.
Even
when I heard
Sheetal has added,